Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Game Changer. I'm Mariam Zia. As the clock is ticking on the deadline of repatriation of illegal foreigners from Pakistan, today we will be talking about this pressing issue. Of course, we know that tonight is the deadline for illegal foreigners to leave Pakistan, and from tomorrow, Pakistan government will be taking action against all those illegal foreigners that are living across Pakistan. And of course, the agencies, law enforcement agencies have been directed in this regard as well. When we talk about these illegal foreigners living in Pakistan, according to reports of UNHCR, there are around 3.7 million Afghan refugees in Pakistan. And of course, when we talk about this illegal foreigners repatriation plan, this applies not only to any specific ethnicity, this applies to any illegal foreigner that is residing in Pakistan. We will be talking about this pressing issue, what challenges the government has faced when we talk about the implementation of this plan, and the impacts of this plan on Pakistan's economy and of course the social fabric at large as well. To discuss this and more, we are joined in the studios by Mr. Shehjar Khan, who is expert in international affairs. Welcome to the program. So Mr. Shehjar, let's talk about from the basics of the issue. Of course, tonight, 31st of October is the deadline. Can you tell us about this repatriation effort? What was the objective of government of Pakistan to finally implement this plan?
So Mariam, first of all, when we talk about the issue of Afghan refugees in Pakistan or issue of like any refugee residing in the country, first of all, we have to keep in mind that it's a very sensitive and a very political issue.
True.
So this issue has been going on since the last 40 years now. Pakistan is a host of one of the largest refugee populations in the world. Right now, because of the issue in the Middle East, Turkey is another country which has exceeded in terms of hosting refugees. Other than that, Pakistan historically has been the country that has hosted the largest number. So when we talk about the Afghan refugees in Pakistan, let me give you a small update on the numbers. So around 1.4 million of the Afghan refugees are the ones that have POR card. For the viewers, POR card is basically called the proof of registration cards. So these are offered jointly by UNHCR and the government of Pakistan. So these 1.4 million are the actual refugees that are hosted by our country. Other than that, we have around 900,000 Afghan citizen card holders. We call it the ACC. So these people from Afghanistan, during the Ashraf Ghani government and the previous Afghanistan regime, when it was in power, so they coordinated with the government of Pakistan, and we identified Afghan individuals who were verified by the government of Afghanistan of that time, and those people were residing in Pakistan. So the government of Pakistan, in collaboration with the government of Afghanistan, provided them these Afghan citizen cards. So they're like around 880,000, around like 900,000. Other than that, there are like 1 million Afghans who do not have a refugee status, who do not fall under the ACC, the Afghan citizen card, and they're undocumented. And they are residing in Pakistan in various different states. They are probably, a lot of them are in KP, then Balochistan, even like Sindh and Punjab also hosts a lot of them. And then another situation happened, as you know, the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan in August 2021. And a lot of, we call them the new migrants, the government of Pakistan calls them. So around...
And 700,000 migrants or people migrated after August 15.
So right? Actually the number is much more than that. So these are the ones that are registered with UNHCR. They didn't register them, but they noted down who these people are and what their background is. So that's also falling under two categories. This is also new for our viewers. So around 400 to 500,000 of them do not want to stay in Pakistan. So they have applied for resettlement. So they are using Pakistan as a base to go into a third country, for example.
As a transit place.
As a transit country, basically. So they're like between 400 to 500,000. And they have somehow guarantees by various embassies or various countries in the European Union or the West.
So they are in the process of
their applications are being processed, and they will basically leave Pakistan when their applications are processed. And then 600,000 more
So do those citizens also fall under this illegal foreigners repatriation
So
plan?
that is what I'm coming at. So the government of Pakistan on 26th of September basically came up with this illegal foreigners repatriation plan. And it's going to take place in 3 phases. So in the first phase that we are discussing right now, and the deadline for that is, I think, tonight. So that is only applicable to people who are undocumented.
Right.
So these are the people who do not have POR cards, they do not have the Afghan citizen card, and they don't have assurances to basically go into a third country using Pakistan as a transit. So this is only applicable to those. So Pakistan is not kicking out any refugees. Pakistan is not kicking out anyone who has an Afghan citizen card. Basically, anyone who's registered with the government of Pakistan or even with UNHCR, so they're like safe and like government is not going after them.
Right, we will be talking about the concerns as well, but we are joined now online by Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaspal. Dr. Jaspal, welcome to the program. Of course, when we talk about this important illegal foreigners repatriation plan, how do you see this plan finally being implemented in Pakistan, and how do you see that this plan aligns with Pakistan's immigration laws and the security concerns that the government of Pakistan is addressing now?
I think that it's an important step. The government is restoring its writ within the boundaries. If somebody wants to come to Pakistan, he must acquire the visa. There must be refugees, and the person who's enjoying the refugee status, he or she must be registered. And if you are trying to live illegally, it's a violation of the law of the land. It is also raised a question about the credibility of the law enforcement agencies in the country. Definitely, the refugees are always a burden on the socio-economic sector of the country. But Pakistan bear the refugees, Afghan refugees, as a Muslim brother or as a neighboring country, a citizen because they were the war or the crisis in their own country. But at the same time, the government of Pakistan's primary responsibility is the people of Pakistan, Pakistan's sovereignty, Pakistan's writ of the state, within the Pakistan, safety and security of the people of Pakistan. So for managing all these side of things, whether it's an economic security, societal security, environmental security, or law enforcement related challenges, government of Pakistan need to establish some kind of the regulatory rule so that the people who are illegally residing in this country, they must be registered and or they must be, you can say, sent back. So I think the government did a very wise decision. Of
Right,
course,
but
many
Dr.
people are
Jaspal,
criticizing.
how has the Afghan government responded to this repatriation plan, and do you see that any collaboration existed between both the countries to facilitate this process?
I think that it's the responsibility of the Afghan government to accept their own nationals. If you see that it's all over the world a common rule. If anybody tried to go in the other country and that country does not accept it, pack him and send back to the original country. And then you have to receive many times Pakistani, you can say illegal migrants have been expelled from the Europe and we accept them in Pakistan. So it's the responsibility of the Afghan government to welcome their own citizens, to encourage their citizens, and to receive their citizens and assist Pakistan in this context. So there is no way one shall not be apologetic on this issue. We have to establish our government, right, and the Afghan government has to cooperate with us. If it is not cooperating, it is shying away from its own responsibility.
Of course, and when we talk about this repatriation plan, the role of agencies, law enforcement agencies is very crucial. How do you see that law enforcement agencies are going to be coordinating with the government agencies to facilitate the smooth, to smooth out this process when we talk about illegal migrants in Pakistan?
I think that first of all, it's a shortcoming of the law enforcement agencies, all kinds of law enforcement agencies in the country, paramilitary forces included. Because illegal migration or illegal residents in this country are because of the, you can say, mismanagement, failure of these agencies. Of course, when the government now took a decision and now it has given the deadline, I have noticed that these agencies are working very efficiently and performing their jobs professionally. That's the reason that the number of the people have been sent back. They have identified and they have asked that please leave this country before the deadline. Now the
Right.
situation will be different from tomorrow onward because then the law enforcement agency will identify that who are residing is here illegally. Of course, there are many Afghan brothers who are living here legally, who have their own card registration and everything. The law enforcement agencies are not allowed to touch them, but the people who have no, you can say, any kind of a document, definitely they have to prove it. And if the law enforcement agencies identify them and drive them back to Afghanistan or any other country, because the government policy is not only based on Afghans illegal residents, they are
This
talking about
applies to
anyone in
any,
the country.
of course, this applies to any person that is residing illegally in
Yeah,
Pakistan, of course. We are also joined in the program by Ambassador Naila Chauhan. Welcome to the program, Ambassador Saiba. So we are talking about this repatriation plan, and tonight is the deadline. So when we talk about repatriating these citizens, how do you see, what kind of safeguards are there in place to protect the rights of these people? Of course, they're humans and citizens as well. So, what kind of mechanisms are in place to protect their rights, so that we deport them, or whatever the mechanism is done is in a dignified manner?
Yes, we have always spoken of voluntary and dignified return of the refugees since last 4 decades. But with our negotiations with UNHCR, we had been talking about the manner in which such repatriation of refugees should take place. But you must bear in mind that, like the Prime Minister was also speaking in his press conference today, in which he said that there are types of refugees. There are some who are PORs, that is, that they are registered. Then there are ACC, who are registered as Afghan refugees, and then there are illegal immigrants. Now, those who have registered, and whether as PORs or ACCs, that is something else, but the illegals are illegals. And for them, even I was reading the reports that a few came a few days ago even, but UNHCR refused to register them, because it is time for them to return rather than come here. So, illegal immigration nowhere in the world is encouraged. We are the only country in the world which has hosted for more than 4 decades 4 million people. When I was High Commissioner in Australia, I would say the population of refugees we have is larger than your whole population of West Australia. And they were shocked because they could not imagine such a large number for a country which is so resource constrained. So, we have to have a realistic perspective of what's going on.
Right.
And like the Prime Minister also said that, as you have also seen in the reports, most of them have started going back with the fear that they'll have a crackdown.
Right, of course. But Ambassador Saiba, when we talk about the situation in Afghanistan itself, there is instability and security issues as well. So how do you see that we can ensure the protection and safety of those citizens? Of course, the government is going to set deportation centers as well, and the minors and women are going to be facilitated. So what's your take on that?
My take is that they are Afghan citizens. It is the responsibility of the Afghan government to ensure their safe return and their integration in the Afghan society. We cannot interfere in their internal affairs. What we can do is save our country from all the sufferings that we have. The increase in terrorist attacks, as you know, one of a very scholarly person that I was speaking to said there are 9 repercussions of these illegal immigrants: narcotics, drugs, arms, crime, petty crime and violent crime, and then smuggling, it's eroding your economy, you know. So instead of having trade, you are suffering through this illegal transfer of goods in which both countries suffer, but individuals make money. So there are multifaceted repercussions of their presence here. So we want their voluntary dignified return. We have been talking about it, but now with UNHCR we have negotiated of methodology of going through it. Those who are coming illegally obviously have illegal agendas also. And we cannot allow our society, our children, our homes to be
bear the brunt of all that, of course.
To be destroyed. I mean, with terrorist attacks, how many homes have been destroyed? So you cannot continue to allow this to happen.
Of course, but Mr. Chijat, at the same time, we have seen that United Nations as well as US is raising concerns about this repatriation plan. What's your take on that?
So, Mariam, basically this issue can be looked at it from two angles. So, one is a security concern, and then the other is a moral obligation. So, Pakistan has to balance between the two. And as Madam Naila has basically very eloquently said, described all the security point of view. When it comes to the moral or human rights point of view, Pakistan has gained a lot of international appreciation for hosting this large refugee population for the last 40 years, 4 decades now. And now that these refugees or Afghan citizens, or illegal Afghan citizens are being sent back, Pakistan also has a moral obligation that they make sure that the return is safe, the return is dignified. Afghanistan is also going through a lot of economic turmoil. There was a recent earthquake over there, around 1,500 people died, around 1.5 million of them are suffering and they're in camps. Other than that, the Taliban regime is very harsh when it comes to women's rights as well. A lot of the Afghan refugees or Afghans that I had an interaction with, they basically said that where will our daughters study once they go back? So obviously there is a moral imperative there as well, which is creating some issues. Obviously the economic situation in Afghanistan is not ideal. A lot of Afghan citizens feel unsafe that how they will be treated under the Taliban regime. A lot of them are not Pashtuns, they're from various different ethnicities residing in Afghanistan. So this is the other point of view, that Pakistan now, since last 40 years, has gained a lot of international recognition for their hosting, and now we have to make sure that we don't lose that goodwill that was developed in the international community and in the Afghan community as well. So there will be a balancing act that Pakistan will have to do.
Ambassador Sahiba, what's your take on this? And also there are reports of some Afghan refugees who have lived in Pakistan for generations. Of course, it's been 40 plus years that these Afghans are residing in Pakistan. So how government is going to deal with those people and to address their legal status?
Mariam, we have to have clarity of the on the ground situation. We are talking of 3 different types of refugees. As far as the government of Pakistan is concerned, we have said those who have come illegally should be deported first. They should go back, and if they want to come to Pakistan, and like Shahryar was saying, their daughters have to have education, or they want whatever prospects in Pakistan, they should come through legal channels. So they go back, they apply properly for visa, and they come through proper channels. Just crossing borders and coming in and kind of invading, this is not going to work. The second type that you have spoken of are those who have been here for several years, generations. Some are born here, they don't know any better than this. They must have had legal documents. So if they are permanent residents of Pakistan, then it is a different status altogether. And if they are categorized as refugees under UNHCR, then they will be processed through UNHCR rules and regulations. So we cannot mix apples and oranges. Pakistan government and Pakistanis as a whole have been very philanthropic on this. We have paid the brunt of it. But now let's be rational. They have to go back. they have to learn to respect our rules and regulations.
Of course.
They can't just gate crash and say, voila, we are here and you
Right,
accept
and
us.
when we talk about, Dr. Jaspal, respecting the rules and regulations, border security and border management is crucial to all this repatriation plans implementation. How do you see the government is going to make sure that the border management is done efficiently, and those agencies are going to be collaborating in a single window operation? Do you think there are enough processes in place at this point in time?
I think that many things are in place, and maybe that's the reason the government has decided to take this serious step to go for illegal, you can say, residents in Pakistan, their repatriation, whether they're Afghans or anyone else. If you see on the Afghanistan side, there is a 2,700 plus border between this common border, Afghanistan and Pakistan. And it's very difficult to monitor. And this border obviously was crossed illegally. But now there is a wire, border management is there. And I'm very much confident the people who are going back, in future, they will not enter Pakistan illegally. They will cross the border through the, what you call it, designated places, through the visa, and they are welcome, definitely, for whatever, whether they want to come to Pakistan for a work, for a education, for a medical treatment, definitely they are welcome. But the question which you raised, that border management, my understanding is that in the last few years, Pakistan has established some kind of mechanism at the borders, including the physical as well as intellectual and other placement, so the people cannot illegally cross the border on their will. They shall cross the border from the legal points.
Right. So do you see any logistical challenges or administrative challenges when we talk about implementation of this repatriation plan?
I think that there is a drastic change. The first drastic change is that the government has decided, gave the deadline. Definitely the government collected the data. The government is aware how many people are illegally residing and in which pockets of the cities they are residing. And they have a plan B as well. My understanding is that plan B is that if by the deadline, if they are not, you can say, returning, then they have to nab them, arrest them, and then repatriate. And the third is definitely they have a plan that they again shall not enter Pakistan illegally. That means that making the border security more efficient, border management efficient. And in that context, of course, government did a good work.
Right, of course. And Mr. Shayar, when we talk about all the implementation of this repatriation plan, let's talk about the economic impacts of this. Of course, there are economic implications when we talk about those areas specifically that have hosted these illegal foreigners or Afghan migrants for decades now. So, what are going to be the economic implications for those areas?
So Mariam, again, you know, when we talk about the repatriation phase, this repatriation doesn't really affect refugees who have been living in Pakistan for over 40 years. But I do want to talk about this. These were definitely the people who started coming to Pakistan in the 80s, and they basically sold their lands, agricultural land, businesses over there, and they brought that money into Pakistan,
right,
and
they
invested.
become a huge part of Pakistan's informal economy as well.
And Pakistan historically has not really come up with a refugee policy as per se. So it was always like based on ad hoc basis, and they basically said that, okay, let's see how the situation goes, and then now it's been like 40 years. And I think now it's time that Pakistan is going through an economic turmoil. We should come up with an investment policy that if there are like any Afghans that want to invest in Pakistan in a certain number of a certain amount of money that they want to invest, they should get investment visas. So even this should be offered to Afghans that have been in Pakistan for the last 40 years. Why do they still have a refugee status? If they have businesses here, if they are investing here, if they're integrated into the Pakistan's economy, that's good for Pakistan's economy. And then their status should be changed to businessmen, or like they should get a business visa of sorts. For example, when the Afghan government was falling and the Taliban were taking over Kabul and the rest of Afghanistan, a lot of Afghans at that time had the option of moving out of like Afghanistan. And if we remember, Pakistan facilitated a lot of Afghans or a lot of like international expats as well through Pakistan to go into like second or third countries. Pakistan had a golden opportunity to tap into these people who were like leaving with their resources, their funds, their like capital, and they could have like come up with an investment criteria, and they could have like asked those people to like invest in Pakistan and get business visas in return. And what happened? We lost that opportunity, and these people went to Turkey, they went to Qatar, and they took their capital and their like funds there as well. So Pakistan does lack foresight in terms of what is good for Pakistan and how the situation can be turned into benefit for Pakistan.
Right.
So that is like something in the future.
Do you see that there are going to be economic repercussions for Pakistan in specific areas?
So that is not very easy to say right now because we don't have like a lot of data. Again, you know, if you basically say that 1.5 million of these people are undocumented.
Right. We don't know
we
whether
don't really
they are
know
in a mosque or making a bomb.
So then we really need to like formulate some sort of like policy in which we do a proper survey in which we find out what their capabilities are, what their education backgrounds are, what kind of like livelihoods they're you know,
and how they are
in.
contributing to
how
the
they're
economy.
contributing to the economy. So we haven't like done any academic research in terms of that. Even when it comes to criminal activities, this is like something that happens out of the blue. We have like around 4 million refugees. If like 14 or 20 of them were involved in a terrorist activity, we cannot like really frame them as a whole community. And but again, Pakistan has this responsibility. We have to protect our borders, and Pakistan is well within its rights to come up with this policy. But how do we go forward from here? I think right now clarity for the future is missing on how do we differentiate illegal migrants or refugees, or how do we attract investment that is coming into Pakistan.
Right.
So that is like something we want to.
When we talk about this repatriation plan, the agreement between UNHCR, Pakistan and Afghanistan is very important. Can you tell us about the structure or framing of this agreement and how this is going to be implemented to ensure that the legal people who have some kind of documents are not being harassed or something like that?
Mariam, when the refugees started coming to Pakistan, let's look at 1979. The dynamics were different. And when Shahryar said that, you know, we didn't have a proper refugee policy, we didn't want to have a refugee policy at that time because that was a different mindset. And how the Soviets had invaded and how, I mean, it was a fight against infidels. So everybody opened their arms, their doors to receive them as our brothers, as part of our families. That was one wave. Subsequently, the character of the Afghan refugees also started changing, and their behavior started changing. You had TTP, you had support from the other side for their nefarious activities. And you asked a question about economy. We keep on talking about informal economy. Do you know the devastation informal economy causes to the formal economy? So with their repatriation, we will have healthy formal economy. You will have healthy formal trade between Afghanistan and Pakistan. You will have a better documented transactions and exchange of visits. So it will have very positive impact in my view.
Of course. And Dr. Rispal, when we talk about this repatriation plan, how do you see the role of UNHCR in all this, and how UNHCR is going to be collaborating with Pakistani government to facilitate the return of these Afghan migrants or any other illegal foreigners for that matter in a dignified manner?
I think that the United Nations agency is not performing well because they are supposed to pay some assistance or grant some amount to Pakistan for the assistance of these kind of things. But they are more talking about the human rights or these kind of things, but not realizing that the human rights of the people of Pakistan are equally violated. In this context, definitely there is a mechanism when you start this kind of repatriation. The United Nations agencies assist you economically, politically, and morally. But I'm not expecting much of them because I've seen some critique from their side. They think that because these refugees also claim that they are not ready to return their own country because of their hard conditions there. And in this context, there is a disturbance. But frankly speaking, my understanding is that they are not they are not coming forth more energetically to
Right, and
assist
what should
Pakistan
be
in
the
this
role of these
context.
organizations, specifically UNHCR and other rights organizations, when we talk about the smooth process of returning of these illegal foreigners to their countries?
Obviously, it's their responsibility. They have to assist us. They have to also assist us in enrollment of these, and that's why the people who have been registered, we are looking after that, and we are not asking them. Our Prime Minister very categorically stated that people who are registered, who have a visa, but we are not disturbing them. They shall remain, and the people whom we are, you can say, deporting. So the United Nations agency has to assist us in repatriation of that. It's our right, being a member of the UN, and I think it's to some extent, obviously they do, but they are not. But my point is, what we expect from them, they are not doing that.
Right, of course, they are not that much forthcoming. So when we talk about these affected communities, when we talk about repatriation plan to be implemented, how do you see what would be the social implications for those communities in which these illegal foreigners were residing for decades, and what is the government's plan to address those issues that would be arising from this?
Let me address two things here.
Sure.
Firstly, what Dr. Jaspal said. My personal opinion is that UNHCR has not been forthcoming. UNHCR's role, you can see a duplicity of attitudes when it comes to refugees in other parts of the world. With us, we had earlier on negotiated with them. We said this is too much of a burden on our society, on our economy, on our security. What we can do is help establish refugee camps on the other side of the border. We will provide them food, we will provide them all facilities, but on the other side of the border. And that was not very well supported. Consequently, our people suffered. Every day you heard people dying of bomb blasts, terrorist attacks, all nefarious activities. So our society will benefit from the departure of these people, because it's like you have had a pain for so long, you think you've got used to it, but it needs treatment.
Yeah, at some point in time, of course.
You have to go to the doctor, and you do need, and if it's an ulcer, you better get a surgery. And that's what we have got done.
Of course. And how do you see that? What should be the government's long-term vision when we talk about a repatriation plan to be implemented? Can you tell us about the deportation centers that are being made in different cities of Pakistan, and at what areas these deportation centers are going to be working?
So Mariam, right now there are three in Torkham border, Chaman border, and they're like, I think, opening 5 in total more. Right now we really have to reflect on where we want to go from here. These detention centers will definitely just document them, get data on them, and then they will be repatriated to Afghanistan. Now in a lot of countries, now Afghanistan, we have to keep in mind that it's not a recognized country internationally. Generally what happens is that there are
not recognized government, rather.
Yeah, exactly. So there are treaties between governments of repatriation. For example, if there's any illegal immigrant in Europe, if they have a treaty with Pakistan, then they're repatriated into Pakistan, and Pakistan is bound to accept them. Now, for example, in the future, if the Taliban government refuses to accept them, then it will become a source of friction between Pakistan and Afghanistan. So that's something that we want to see. Other than that, when you also discussed it, border management is very crucial in Pakistan. So we also have to self-reflect in the fact that how did 1.5 million people cross this very long border and were residing in Pakistan for I don't know how many decades, and Pakistan didn't
We
know.
have to put our own house in
So
order.
we have to put our own house in order. We have to develop investment policies that why was there this like government, under, the auspices of the US after 9/11, Ashraf Ghani government, Karzai government, and we couldn't really have any good relations. That is where the relations started to dip. And that is when the whole idea of the, Madam Naila is also saying, that is when the whole perception on the refugees started changing. And that is also the time when Pakistan went through this horrible wave of terrorism that KP and Balochistan especially went through. And we also have to keep in mind that a lot of cross-border terrorist organizations are operating from Afghanistan's soil. And those are legitimate security concerns of Pakistan that we have to take up now with the Afghanistan government. And we have to make sure that in this like overall security lens by which we are like viewing this situation, we also need to keep in mind, we need to look at it from an economic lens, how we will basically take this policy forward after this repatriation takes place. What are we going to do next? So I think like that is where we still need to think and like see how the relationships between Pakistan and Afghanistan will go forward. We have to make sure that we already have a neighbor on our eastern side is very aggressive. So we cannot afford to have a neighbor on our western side where a lot of organizations are residing that are very hostile towards Pakistan. So this is a very delicate balancing act where Pakistan will have to play on making sure that it doesn't like have any negative repercussions for Pakistan.
Of course, that is important. But Dr. Jaspal, when we talk about this repatriation process, we have been listening about or witnessing the concerns from rights organizations regarding this government's plan for repatriation of Afghan governments and other illegal foreigners. How do you see that the government should be addressing those concerns, and how significant is that concern?
I think the concern is important because if you see the refugees, many of them are not by choice became refugees. They are the, you can say, victim of the environment, political instability, insecurity, and the Taliban's harsh decisions. And as you know that the Taliban for 20 years, and many of these Afghans, they think that they were the allies of the previous government, Ghani government, or the invaders. So definitely for them, it's a tough time. Second important thing is that within the Afghanistan, situation is not attractive. Historically, anyone who moves from the north to the south, he tried to remain in the south because of the weather, because of the economic opportunities. Same is the case with the Afghans. So the people who are here, they are here for their economic security, for their life security, and for other these kind of the things. However, in this context, we have our own people's security, and that's why the government has decided. The government is doing its best. That's why they gave it the deadline. They are encouraging. They are facilitating. They are even facilitating the people who are not, you can say, able to move out. But obviously, when they leave this, there will be a gap. The gap could be a cheap labor. Many people will be losing because they were providing a cheap labor. But at the same time, it will assist the government agencies in countering or improving law and order situation within the country, because the drugs spread, illegal arms, and other things, because these migrants were burden on the law enforcement agencies, especially when the writ of the state comes. So by management of these things, obviously there will be a gap, but that impact will be less so at the societal or cultural level. The gains will be more. And my understanding is that this policy will be going to have a dividend provided we implement and maintain, keep implementing for the next coming years.
Of course. And Mr. Shahjar, lastly, looking forward, how do you see that this repatriation plan is going to be implemented, and how this is going to be affecting Pakistan's economy at large, because we know that tonight the deadline is expiring?
So, Mariam, I think like Pakistan being a responsible state, I'm sure it will like make sure that these refugees or illegal migrants are treated with dignity, they are treated with respect, and they are like provided facilities to repatriate into their own countries. Other than that, globally, if you look at this issue, we're looking at it from Pakistan's point of view. Internationally as well, there is refugee fatigue. This is a phenomenon that everyone is like going through. Refugee fatigue is there in Europe as well. Even after the Ukrainian, Russia-Ukraine issue, a lot of like Ukrainian refugees, and after a year, they're already feeling a lot of fatigue. International community, when it looks at this issue, they basically see that if these like people are repatriated, they don't like feel safe, they don't have economic opportunities, what will happen next? They will try to illegally immigrate to Europe or other Western countries. So they also see this as a migration concern that can emerge from this area. I also now, when I look at this, this is a collective responsibility of the global community that they make sure that Afghanistan is safe for all ethnicities, their own citizens, and it is a responsibility collectively for Europe, the Western countries, to go towards some sort of arrangement in which the Afghan government is recognized, so their international banking channels can develop, investment can go into that country, and people can find livelihoods and economic opportunities in that country.
At their own homes, of course. And lastly, Ambassador Nala, what's your take on this? The role of international community is very important. Of course, these rights organizations keep on raising concerns when it comes to Pakistan. But what about their own role?
Exactly, and I think Shahryar has very eloquently mentioned that they are putting pressure on you because they are afraid that the repercussions will be on them. These migrants will then head towards Europe or North America. They don't want them. They don't have the kind of open heart, large-hearted people as we do. So, to prevent themselves from that repercussion, they are putting pressure on us. But we have to look at our national interest. We have to look at protecting the interest of our citizens, their human rights, their rights to life, their right to have good economy. Why do we have to, charity begins at home. We have to start it at home, help our own people. You are a population of 240 million people. How many are below poverty line?
Right.
And this immigrants' impact has destroyed us for last 40 years. But we have kept quiet. But I think it's about time that we, say, okay, enough is enough. I have never heard any Afghan say thank you to Pakistan.
Right, right. But this repatriation plan is not applying or implementable to any specific ethnicity. This applies to any
all
illegal foreigners
yes,
that is residing in Pakistan. Thank you very much, Ambassador Naila Chauhan, for joining us in today's program. Thank you very much, Mr. Shahryar Khan, for joining us in today's program. Thank you very much, Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaspal, for joining us in today's program. Of course, our panelists talked about the challenges or complexities surrounding this implementation of repatriation of illegal foreigners plan. And of course, the government has to repatriate these illegal foreigners at some point in time, because we have to keep our own house in order, keeping in mind the economic conditions of the country, keeping in mind the terrorism threats that are associated with these illegal foreigners. That's all from our side. Take care. Allah Hafiz.